Is this a lost season for Spurs, especially now with Hugo Lloris going down?
No, I don't think it is. If you look at Spurs' overall situation, and we often have a bit of a smile because you're a Spurs fan, and it doesn't matter if they're whatever they're winning, it's not going great. But but if you look, Spurs top 4, they got a great chance. Champions League qualifying. They're still in the Champions League right now. They're still in the FA Cup, last 16 with an away game against Sheffield United, I believe. So that's a winnable thing. So they're still in. Now, I don't think, if I'm right to assume, that Spurs would have been thinking, let's win the league this year. So I think the next best would be top 4. So they're still on for top 4, even though things don't seem to be going so well for Spurs, and they're not. It's kind of like everything that happens, they still hang in there. They won't go away. So things that crop up, you think, oh, it's one thing on top of another. But really, when you look at the whole picture, I'll tell you what. Again, 3/4 of the Premier League would bite your arm off for the situation, the position that Spurs are in right now.
Yeah, and I would say this. I think it is a little bit of a lost year for Spurs right now because this was supposed to be a step forward. You finally spent during the January transfer window, spent a little bit during the summer. Apparently, they're just never, as long as Daniel Levy draws breath on planet Earth, the Spurs are never going to spend the way that Chelsea, Liverpool, United, those teams do. But my concern is this. Watching that, and maybe I'm overreacting to a small sample size with that Leicester City match. They're passing like my niece's ASO team, if you know what ASO is here in the States. The passing's terrible. And that's not an issue of that Lloris isn't there. It's not an issue of injuries to the back end. They just, there's no purpose to what they're doing passing the ball right now. And it doesn't seem as if they're trying to get forward. Against Leicester City, it was clear from the onset that they had far more pace. They're a far faster team, especially in the midfield. And they couldn't take advantage of that because the passing was just awful, just atrocious. And so they have Højbjerg needs to be the guy that makes the pass, that sets up the guy that makes the pass, that sets up Kane or Son. He a little bit more of a holder that can move the ball upfield and can get a nice dribble out of box to box. If he wants to do something, he can do that. I don't want to see him being the main guy going box to box most of the time because I think you're taking guys out of their skill set. Porro comes from Portugal, and he was just terrible, just absolutely terrible against Leicester City. So for this not to be a lost year for Spurs, they're not nearly as good in goal, and they won't be for the next 7 weeks. So what they're going to have to do is that back end. You can't have an unfocused match from Eric Dyer like you did on Saturday. And I just don't know who there is to play Kane in right now or to play Son in with the ball, because Højbjerg is not the guy that needs to be. That's the wrong position for him to be playing that. And I think some of these guys that Conte wanted them to bring in certain players, especially at the wingback position, and those guys haven't played particularly well right now, although it is still a little bit early. You're right, though. It could be worse, right? But what you're having to count on if you're Spurs is light switch comes on for Porro, and also Newcastle continues to fall, because it's hard to believe right now that Spurs are going to be able to go on a run of 3-4 matches in a row that they win.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's this consistency, isn't it? With a lot of teams at the moment, quite honestly. It's not just Spurs, and that's what's bailing a lot. That's what's keeping things interesting at the top at the moment. Certainly the sort of top 10 or top 8, if you like. And to compound the issue, just lost a midfielder. I've forgotten his name. He's done his knee ligaments in, hasn't he? Yeah. So he's out. I mean, so it just goes from bad to worse in the midfield. But you're right, and maybe Kane's got to start dropping deeper again, like he did. That's probably what's going to happen, and play or him and Son interchange like they did really effectively last season a lot, and they were almost unstoppable. So the attacking threat's there. Unlike most teams, the attacking threat's fantastic, but you're just looking to play. Perhaps you just got to go more direct. Get the ball up to Kane, Son, have those two having a field day up top. Cut the midfield out. Play to your strengths. Play what you got. You know what I mean?